Good morning, everybody. Just my video just to prep myself for the week and what to expect. So just touching base with what happened last week. This was like quite a key bit of information that we got here that was quite interesting. So I've been playing on the shorter time frames, overnight swings mostly, not much more than that. Difficult to do longer term swings. Some people are and doing quite well because you can kind of ride this momentum up. 8 EMA, 15 EMAs kind of just held here. But this is the first time that I think really since the kind of tariff stuff from this candle that we've had a real proper test of this move up. So we actually got some follow through for once because the bears have never really followed through. Like kind of a pullback here. Couldn't remember if this was the Iran bit or this was the Iran bit. But some light ones here after this move up. But again, this is what we always saw. It was kind of a bit of a test and then whack, straight back to it. Beautiful bullish hammer and back to business and we're off again. Same here, where we're off again. So it's going to be interesting to see, can the bears continue to follow through? This is the sucker punch that we've been kind of expecting at some point because, there's been no consolidation on this move up. It's just mostly just been a straight up move higher from a monthly perspective. You can see just 3 months of just pure going up, basically. So in August, which we commonly see some weakness, this is what potentially expecting. So it's just a pullback for the longer term trend because there's a long way for there's a lot of cushion for the bulls, basically is what I'm trying to say. So we're just going to take this one step at a time and just look at the daily really, and to see, what can the bears do next. So we know we mainly got this move because it was news driven off those job numbers. So they were, when they were reported, I think it was the May June numbers were 144,000, but actually the correct numbers were sitting around 15,000, 20,000, so much, much, much lower than actually reported, which Powell really could have done with that information like 48 hours, 72 hours before that, and the Fed. But now the Fed is off. It's recess for them. They're not back until September. I think one of the Fed members is speaking this week, but not on this sort of topic. So yeah, maybe we get some jitters, but it could be a healthy pullback is what we need. Really, people want to buy dips, but don't think this is the time to buy the dip. So this week is just watching how will this move play out. Can the bears continue to follow through on excuse me, trying to make some progress, basically kind of going lower. But the good thing for the bulls is they've got lots of room. They've got lots and lots of room to make higher lows. So if we look this level here for me in this kind of pastely color is kind of the previous all-time high, and we want to see that respected and tested. But if we're bulls, we want to see that level really nicely supported. So if I just move across to my kind of template piece here, but this is what, from a weekly perspective, this is looking at. There's a lot of work for the bears to do here to try. So this is weekly, so we're just starting this week here. There's a long way for those bears to try work this down, to even just form a lower, a kind of a weekly lower low, which would help us confirm a bear trend. And that's this red line, and look how far away that is. That is very, very far. We're talking at the 590 level, so there's a long way for that to go before we get there. So that's what we're looking out for this week. So just to zoom into the daily, just kind of two scenarios I'm looking at really. It's like, what do the bulls want to see? They want to see this gap here kind of filled. That's what they want to see. They don't want to see us lingering around here down at this level. They want to see what we've seen in the past, which we just looked at, is like just a shooting back up. People buy the dip and we're back to business. We're back to potentially challenging that all-time high to try again. And we're trying to obviously not to form a lower high. That's what we don't want to form here. Whereas if we're bears, we're expecting maybe buyers to come in to test the dip or to buy the dip. But we want to see the bears hold control here. So if we do start to kind of come up to here and close this gap, we want to see it reject off it. And we want to see a nice, again, like another engulfing candle to try and take us lower. Because we don't want this move to get too overextended, because if we go ka-chonk, ka-chonk, ka-chonk and get bigger, bigger, bigger levels, like an elastic band, they have to kind of ping back sometimes because people will take profit. So that's what we're basically looking out for scenario-wise. We're just, can the bears take control for the first time in a long time? In terms of what will drive that this week, there's not a huge amount that will drive it. So just in terms of some of the numbers coming out, so ISM services could be interesting. It's kind of teetered on negative territory for a little while. So it's positive at the moment. I think we're seeing it like 51.8, that sort of time. So we're in growing territory, but it's once or twice fallen into negative territory. So keeping on that. But the main thing, and it's what the Fed are looking at, because we saw a small uptick in unemployment, and Powell has kind of been saying the unemployment numbers, the unemployment percentage is what we're watching. So if we start to get numbers where unemployment's going up, that's going to be a bit of a warning sign. And that will kind of inspire the Fed or move them to action to cut. It changes quite a bit, but I think the percentage chance, the Fed Watch tool, is about 80% for a cut in September's rates. Was 30% after Powell's kind of hawkish statement at the last FOMC meeting. So what else might drive us this week? A particular direction? It could be some earnings. We've had most of the big Mag 7 earnings and other earnings. I think it's been a bit of a mixed bag, really. Amazon hasn't done particularly well. Microsoft Meta kind of done pretty well, but I think they've been mostly giving back a lot of those gains that they kind of shot up. So, well, maybe it's just some consolidation and find support, but it's been a mixed bag. I'd say it was not super positive, but not super negative. But I think what's interesting about that is I think some of those expectations around earnings were lowered based on the tariff stuff happening. So the expectations for earnings were lowered, but still they slightly disappointed, which doesn't sound particularly bullish, does it, when you kind of frame it that way? But yeah, we'll just see. We'll see what kind of drives us. So Palantir on Monday, some other smaller ones, AMD could be interesting, but just worth keeping an eye on, especially if we're trading and we have the potential for these to affect our other tickers that we're trading with. And in terms of just rotation, because what I've been looking for and paying attention to quite a bit, sorry, this is a very messy graph, but basically all it's really showing is, it's usually a bit more zoomed in, was this kind of drop in SPY, was it some sector rotation? Was there any sector rotation kind of involved in that, or was it a uniform drop across all of the sectors? And basically what this graph is really showing, with the exception of utilities, which actually held up pretty well, is most sectors, pretty much all the sectors, saw a big all drop together. Basically, there wasn't really any sector rotation here. So that's a bit of a warning sign, basically, to say, that this drop was legit. The selling across the board was legit. It wasn't people moving money, from SMHQQQ into maybe moving into a bit of utilities and industrials, kind of moving money around the market, which is kind of healthy. It's healthy to have that sort of sector rotation. But this was money actually leaving the market, and you kind of see that's also reflected in this chunky volume. So if we turn just pre-market back on, this is what we're expecting this morning with the futures and kind of opening up. We're not sure if we can call that a gap up. I suppose it is technically a gap up, but we'll see. There's a couple of hours until the open, so that will change before we get there. So we're going to challenge the high from this day initially. And this kind of pink line here is the anchored VWAP to the quarter. So it's beginning of the quarter in 1st of July, that sort of time frame. So, but for me, it's the gap here. Like, can we get into this gap and shut that gap down? That was kind of my market thinking just for the week. In terms of what I've traded, I've not traded a huge amount, just lots of stuff going on, very difficult as usual. But I did have position IONQ. So I've been playing moves on just having nice support underneath, kind of looking at these EMAs. But yeah, kind of pullback trade basically. So rejection off there, but I like how it started to form, a high low. So I wanted to play that into here and to see can we break this resistance level, this downward sloping trend line? And the answer to that was no, but that's fine. It was a short trade, took some profit on the trade. So I actually took most of my profit off here and left a runner just to see, well, can it keep going? And I'll just have a nice runner on, small position, but it didn't. It rejected off as I thought it might do, which I think is what my note says here. Yeah, the exit remaining position. I'm not quite sure where connect came from for that, but exit the remaining position was the idea towards the end of the day. You probably can't see that because I'm so zoomed out. But yeah, I just wanted to see like, okay, it's rejected off there, but does it bounce back and kind of close up here on it? That would be pretty bullish. But it didn't, so I just closed it. I know overall took a profit in that position. And another one that I took was just probably not the best breakout, to be honest, in NVIDIA. But I overall liked it. I saw that it broke out from here. I like this candle. I like the regaining of strength that it's starting to have, kind of back into here, and didn't want to hold it over too much, so I kind of just held it from Monday and into Wednesday, and then sold sometime on Wednesday. But that's all I took. Could have actually taken a bit of profit there, but yeah, I didn't want to hold it over some of the events happening. So yeah, I've not traded a huge amount, to be honest. I've been watching the markets, seeing what's going on with the markets, and just getting up to scratch with all these things. So that's what we were looking for this week. That's what we're watching out for. Let's see what happens. Let's see if there's going to be a good dip buying opportunity, or is it an opportunity to start taking some shorts. I might be, depending on what I see, trading the short side, but again, keeping these trades super snappy, super short. I can't obviously day trade, but I will potentially hold something overnight, potentially. But if I could, I probably would err on the day trading side. But we'll see. We'll see what we get, what kind of rejections we get, etc. But yeah, I hope your trading goes well for all of you. Yeah, that's it from me. Thanks.